to Regina.
Well, I think it's a serious
oh,
issue
yes, absolutely.
that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a wake-up call here for local, federal, and municipal political leaders, and in fact business leaders as well, to monitor what might be planned on the issue of federal public servants being moved out of Ottawa. This surely would hurt Ottawa's economy. So the reason why I tweeted the two articles is because I think we should start being concerned about this issue, and we should start dealing with the issues. I'm not aware that anybody is at this particular point, so
right.
Hopefully we can get some discussion going.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very important issue. Maybe, for the future of the city and the workforce and all the best laid plans, maybe the most important discussion to have right now. Yeah, and you're saying there's a concerted effort underway by Western Canadian governments to decentralize the federal workforce.
Yes.
Now's the time. If we're, there's never been a better time to get more good-paying federal government jobs to our communities, right?
Well, they're being opportunistic, and they're clearly seriously about it. Mm-hmm. So I think we should be serious about it as well.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting the way this is playing out, because for many years, there was a lot of talk in Ottawa about, do we need so many federal government workers downtown? And maybe we should just decentralize the federal workers out of downtown because real estate would be cheaper, say, out in the suburbs, right? And so the DND moves out to the West End, the RCMP moves out to Barrhaven, right? This decentralization. Well, now you take that and it seems, Bob, like it's being magnified.
Well, COVID-19 has generated a lot of change, a lot of thinking, and it's actually impacting on how we might have to manage our economy, because the results have been unbelievable in terms of people not working in an office in the conventional sense. They're working from home, and if you're looking at a lot of businesses, as you've just suggested, they're downsizing their space.
Yeah.
They're letting people work from home.
Yeah.
So that has real consequences for the federal government.
Well, Shopify has said, when are people coming back? Never. They're never coming back.
Well, the other, I mentioned two documents.
Yeah.
There was that one coming from out west. There's another very significant, large technical document called Digital Operations Strategic Plan. That's the Government of Canada. And it's actually quite a brilliant article. There's 6 chapters in it, and they talk about all the digital challenges, all the changes that are taking place, what's happening in the workplace, the technology that's there now. And they have in there slight reference to jobs. The document, as I said, is exceptionally good, comprehensive, digital planning, but there's a reference to work in the regions, which in my opinion just might be interpreted as having government workers outside the capital. So there's some concern in there. It's buried in a very
right.
detailed.
But we
document.
also know, and Mr. Duclos has said this in the past. The government has these very ambitious climate change targets now. They want to be they want the federal government even on its own operations side to be net zero by the year 2050. Right. Well, the second largest source of greenhouse gas emissions is buildings, and the federal government owns a lot of real estate, a lot of square footage, and the thinking is the government's own carbon footprint could be reduced greatly if we don't have to own and operate all of these buildings. So that's something else to keep in mind.
Well, it's an issue that every municipality has to deal with, every government has to deal with, and changes are being made. The technology is changing. Buildings are being built differently. Mm-hmm. And every type of government that you have is looking at reducing the carbon footprint, and that But that is generating a tremendous amount of new technology, of innovation. And the innovation is rapid fire. It's geometrically expanding. And the reality is that change is going to be the nature of business, the nature of society, because of technology. We're going through a technological revolution that no one ever anticipated, at least not this speed of it.
Okay, I want to ask you about a few things that have been really hot in the city and have a lot of people worked up about how things are playing out here. I'm sure you're very in tune with what's going on, the situation with Mark Motors here in the city. What do you think about how that was handled? And now that Mark Motors will receive this incentive, 10 years, $2.9 million, what do you think? Was the right decision made here, Bob Chiarelli? Or?
Well, first of all, if I can let you know what my principle has been since I left City Hall in 2006, I made a promise to myself, my family, and privately to the public that I was not going to be a sore loser.
Right.
I was going to respect the outcome, and I made a decision that I would not criticize the mayor or council, and I've abided by that throughout this period of time. I might at some point, if and when I declare myself and I have a platform out there, I might very well do it. I can comment on the policies and the principles, but I am not going to criticize the individual.
The votes. Okay, you don't want to talk about how the votes went, but we have this program, community improvement programs. We have brownfields programs to remediate parcels of land in the name of economic development, so it attracts property development. These sort of economic incentive programs, generally speaking, as a public policy issue, are you in favor of them or not?
I like to make improvements to communities, and there needs to be policies to improve communities. Sometimes there should be incentives to do that. It's the nature of the incentive that really is very relevant. On this particular issue, I watched the better part of the debate, and technically, they might be right in saying that this is compliant with the program. On the other hand, there's an issue of responding to public opinion and what the public values. And my assessment is that if you were to do a poll of the public, and this is my estimation, it's not technical in any way, most people would say this is one that should not have been made because of the nature of the business and some of the issues about how it may or may not impact on the community, which it was intended to do. So I think that the test will be, in the election. I mean, they will have to answer. This council will have to answer for that decision. I believe that the public would have preferred a decision to go the other way, but the reality is the vote that occurred, and so there has to be accountability, and that accountability will be there in the next election.
Okay. Do you think it's right for the Integrity Commissioner to investigate the source of a leaked memo to a news reporter?
I have a serious issue about that, quite frankly. I think, there's an old joke that goes around City Hall that if you want to get something in a headline, take it in camera and leak it. Okay, so the issue here is one that's very, very fundamental. I don't think the media should be investigated for where it's got its leaks. If it's done internally, they can question it internally. They can question it in camera, but I don't believe that they should put investigators, not the least of which should be the police, to which they suggested to look into this. So I question, that part of it.
All right. Thank you, Bob Chiarelli. Good to hear from you, sir.
Thank you.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Good talking to you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
former Ottawa Mayor, former Regional Chair, Cabinet Minister in the Ontario government as well, Bob Chiarelli. When we come back, net neutrality. What is it? Why is it important? How does it relate to Bill C-10? All of that coming up on The Rob Snow Show on City News.
The Rob Snow Show, brought to you.
To opening a business especially in a pandemic, in that kind of situation, is very challenging. First, people don't know me, people don't know my product. To build a new clientele, to build a trust for them, to show them that I care about it. I do love my food. That was the biggest challenge. And of course, in all lockdown, I had to face it regards my employee, girls, ladies, what they work for me. I didn't want to tell them, sorry, I'm closed, I'm not having a job for you. No, they have families, they have kids to feed. So this is very important because we are family orientated. And we decided to open. We, of course, essential business. So been very tough, very, very tough, as we didn't see people on the road. Market was completely quiet, but we knew it that we have to wait, and we knew it that we're gonna be fine. In this time, we built online shop, Vedel Online, and we did Uber Eats, which one is picking up and is very, very popular. We have a really good feedback. So this is the song for my heart. And and we try to expand. I'm thinking about opening another location. So I want to make Vedel famous. I want to make the Vedel place to be for all the families with kids. Try the traditional food, what the grandparents cooked in the countries when they're from, or even Canadian people. They're more than welcome to come and try our famous pierogis. I try to be passionate about my food, organic food made with love, with all homemade, organic. So you can find food from all over the Europe: Polish, German, Ukrainian, Romanian, French, Armenian. So all kind of different types of food. Homemade lunches. We focus on the homemade lunches, grandma style. I keep always saying, like in my Genia babcia house, how she cooked. I wanted this love and this food over here because I believe that would bring all people around me. And all the organic cold cuts, lovely selection of sausages, cheeses, European cheeses, great selections of mustards, French cookies. All what you need from Europe you can find here at the Vedel Touch of Europe. If you think good way, that's it. You have to. I had the option to cry in the corner and say, oh, pandemic is coming. No, you need to stand up and fight for it and have your eyes open, think outside of the box and do it.
FrequencyPodcastNetwork.com.
Find your frequency.
He's a pillar of community opinion
The Rob Snow Show returns.
on Rogers TV and City News
1011 FM.
and 1310 AM.
The knock against Bill C-10, the federal government's attempt to regulate the internet, the knock against it is the talk of passing a bill that would regulate social media as though it is traditional broadcasting, user-generated content, intrusive regulations and oversight, policing of the internet, some say. The Minister of Heritage, Mr. Guilbeault, in conversations on television with media outlets, has talked about the idea of internet kill switches, of 24-hour removal notices. You have violated the statute, and you must remove this content within 24 hours, and it must be gone forever, wiped clean forever. The blocking of content that is, for one reason or another, deemed undesirable by the government, and net neutrality. What is net neutrality? We're going to kind of get the FAQs on net neutrality, why it's important, and how that relates to Bill C-10. So joining us now to help guide us through this is the Executive Director of Open Media, Laura Tribe. Good morning.
Good morning.
Generally speaking, before we launch into net neutrality, as this has moved ahead here, the debate over Bill C-10, and it's making its way through Parliament, are you placated at all? Do you feel changes that you were looking for have been made? Just how are you feeling right now about the prospect of Bill C-10 becoming the law of Canada?
So Open Media has had concerns with Bill C-10 since it was first introduced in the fall, and those really grew exponentially when a few weeks ago we saw, the introduction of user-generated content being regulated and a lot of the concerns you outlined. Since then, I think, unfortunately, none of the moves or amendments by government have done much to placate the concerns of critics, not just Open Media, but many others. In part because of the process of how this entire bill has been handled. So unlike most bills, there was very little consultation. The committee has been very one-sided in who it has heard from in these conversations. And we're now hearing a lot of talk about just trying to rush this bill through. And so I think when we've heard from the minister a lot of disinformation about the bill itself, what is or isn't contained, a lot of having to talk or...
What do you think he's... what is he saying that's not true?
So I think when the first amendments were introduced around user-generated content and the protections for user-generated content being removed, we heard the minister telling us that wasn't true. That wasn't going to happen. And that was exactly what the amendment had said. And so it was really frustrating for people trying to genuinely engage in good faith on this bill, on how we can improve it, to be told that we were just misunderstanding, and then later have the minister himself and MPs in the department clarify, well, actually, yes, that was our intention. We did want to include user-generated content, and here's why. Yeah. And so when you're not getting clear and consistent information from those who are in charge of the bill, it raises a lot of concerns around a bill that is so murky and so overreaching in what it has the potential to do to shape the internet moving forward.
Okay. What is net neutrality?
So net neutrality is a principle or in Canada applied by a set of rules that govern that traditionally ISPs cannot pick and choose what you can and cannot see online, that they have what's called common carriage. They have to just provide open access to the internet without blocking certain types of content or kind of interfering in what you see online.
Right.
So it means they can't promote their own types of content, they can't discriminate against content from their competitors, and that when you log in, you have to see the whole internet.
Right, because we have an industry in telecommunications, internet included, that is very vertically integrated, right?
Exactly.
So they own the big companies, I work for one, own the pipes, but also own the content generation. Right?
Exactly.
So let's say one, if one company owns a streaming service, do you want them to have the ability to, say, offer you your Netflix experience at, say, less than HD quality, or it's buffering, or they throttle it is the term, right? That's what net neutrality means, right?
Exactly. So it means they can't block, throttle any of your access to other sites. They can't give preferential treatment to their own sites. So in the case of something like Rogers, it would mean they can't block or throttle Crave TV. They would have to make sure that you have just as quality internet access to them as you would to your own Rogers services.
Right. Okay. How does C-10 handle that?
So the thing about Bill C-10 is that typically net neutrality has applied to what we would call an intermediary, basically the companies providing your access or your service, and typically that's been ISPs. What Bill C-10 is doing is taking all of the laws of broadcasting and applying them to the internet, but ignoring the laws that already apply to the internet, like net neutrality. So what it's saying is that instead of giving intermediaries kind of the freedom and the responsibility to give equal access, that they would actually be mandated to provide preferential treatment to certain types of content or certain types of services, particularly
in fact,
Canadian
we know,
content.
for example, we know, Rob Snow, that you prefer watching whatever, Chicago PD on Prime, right?
Yeah.
But we own Crave. And we would rather that you watch this Canadian show that we're invested in on our streaming service, right?
Totally.
And they would be able to do that. And not only that, throttle back my Prime account.
So it would be potentially in different ways. It could be applied to your ISP, or it could actually be applied to the platform itself. So you could even be logged into Crave TV and you could be trying to watch HBO content, but they could be trying to prioritize you watching something that is made by CTV. And so even within those services themselves, really trying to steer you in one direction over another around what you actually are able to access.
Unbelievable, isn't it? It's really unbelievable.
The thing that is particularly concerning is that it would now potentially, in the way the government's looking at it, extend to services like YouTube. And that's really where that discussion around user-generated content comes into. So net neutrality is one of the reasons that we have things like viral content, because it's not just the things that a news production team or an editor is deciding should go out there. It's really what you are curating for yourself to want to see. And when you start to take those social media platforms, and you start to take the content that we pick and choose ourselves as to what we want to follow and what we want to see, and then have the government through the CRTC deciding, well, actually, 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 videos you see has to be.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.